Welcome back. Cairo, as we all know, encloses a large number of sporting clubs and yacht clubs that provide a wide range of activities and services enjoying its members. And there are, as we said, there are numerous yacht clubs here in Cairo and all over Egypt. Among them is the Cairo Yacht Club that overlooks the Nile River. It's a very beautiful place, and members can enjoy sailing, they can enjoy boating, windsurfing, and also water skiing. The Nile cruise trip is a good thing to do that there in the yacht club, where you can overlook the whole Nile and watch the beautiful scenery all over Cairo. It would take you an hour or more, and then you can come back and enjoy your stay in the yacht club. And with us now is Mr. Yousef Mazhar, Commodore of the Cairo Yacht Club and former president of the Egyptian Yachting Water Ski Federation.
Hello, Doctor. Hello. Let me
you.
start with the main water sports here in Egypt. What are they?
Well, you know, as you can see from the definition, water sports actually are everything on top of the water and under the water. But when it comes to administrative organization, the water sports we're talking about here is mostly on top of the water. So it starts with sailing, it starts with surfing, it starts with windsurfing, with the difference between the two. It starts with many other things like skiing, water skiing, and now we have something new which we didn't insert in the introduction. It's kiting. So kiting is water skiing, but there's a kite that lifts you up. So these are the main subdivisions of water sports, but inside each one of them there's a lot. I mean, if you talk about sailing or yachting, you'll find there are about 12 to 14 different classes of boats. So if people like, for example, if you're going to swim, there's the 50 meters, 100 meters, but in boats you've got something called the laser, you've something got the... So it's a class of boats that shows you where you are in yachting.
Yes.
So there's a lot. Water sports are a lot. And the nice thing about it is they're always multiplying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we didn't have kiting about 10 years ago. We didn't have water skiing 30 years ago. So there's always a lot of development along the line in water sports.
Yes.
Right. Mr. Mazhar, from where we are located now, I can easily notice people who are riding boats and they are rowing.
Yes.
That's a sports in its own right.
Yes.
So people have the sport. Is this like also a sports club for people to come and enjoy?
You see, this whole...
What's the age factor?
Yes. Along the stretch of the Nile, we are now on the west bank of the Nile, and as probably the camera can see, we've got behind us the north part of the Nile. So we didn't mention rowing is because in particular this location where you are, we don't do a lot of rowing. But along the Nile bank, there are also rowing clubs. And the rowing clubs, you've got skiffs, you've got 2 crew, you've got 4, and they've got also international competitions. But on the small Nile, we are here on the big Nile, the wide Nile. So all these things are part of the water sports.
But Doctor, you've mentioned subdivisions of the sports that actually are being developed every year or every decade.
Yes.
So what are the competitions that are being held here in Egypt?
Okay. Look, competitions go very simply. There's always a local competition in a club. So the Cairo Yacht Club has got its local competition. The Maadi Yacht Club has got its competition. The Alexandria Yacht Club has got its...
In every neighborhood?
Every stretch of water.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I mentioned Alexandria, so it's Alexandria, Cairo, Maadi. Also, you've got the Bitter Lakes. And the Suez Canal goes from Port Said, goes to Ismailia, goes to Suez. And each one of those, there is a yacht club.
Mm-hmm.
So you get along the Suez Canal and in the Bitter Lakes, the 2 big lakes, and Lake Timsah is also a stretch of water. So anywhere where there is water, and Egypt is very lucky because you've got the north coast, you've got the Red Sea, and even if you go down to Safaga, for example, we had I'll answer 2 questions in one.
Yes.
We had an international competition in Suma Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Suma Bay is in the south side of the Red Sea, and this was the Arab championship for a number of sailing boats.
Mm-hmm.
So the Arab championship was held in Egypt, not in Dubai or not in Kuwait. In Egypt, it was only last month, and maybe I can get you some pictures of this.
Yes.
And it was in a number of these sailing boats.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see you got a matrix of boats and locations.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot, there's a lot. Actually, this
So that's an advantage for Egypt in itself.
Of course, we've got a very big advantage because you've got...
Unlike many other countries.
Look, Europe, they can't sail except 3 or 4 months. United States, maybe 5 months, depending if you're north or south. So you've got an ideal location. That's
and
why,
weather also.
yes, the
The
weather.
reason they can't
And
sail is
I'd
because
like
of
to
the
say
weather.
something else. If you mentioned weather, for us, it's not only the weather, the sunshine, it's the strength of the wind. And you know that Egypt is very lucky that we've got windmills, and we make power out of windmills.
Yes.
And you've got Za'farana, you've got Ras Sudr, which are the strongest and the most uniform winds in the world. And this is ideal for sailing. So maybe about 15 years ago, we had a very big championship in Safaga. Safaga is also a Red Sea port. And this was an international championship and with certain kind of boats, and there were 104 competitors. So we're very, very nicely located. You're located now, of course, you're doing this program on the Nile.
Yes.
But the Nile has a number of spots along. We even want to do things in Aswan, in Luxor. But the sea, of course, is the big thing for yachting.
Yes.
Like Mr. Mazhar, from where you're talking, we can understand that we here Egyptians have a good opportunity for this type of sports.
Yes.
So how good are Egyptians in particular in that type of sports, the sailing and windsurfing and the riding boats and rowing and all that
Yes.
kind of sports?
You see...
Where are we rated worldwide?
Okay. First of all, how do you get into it? Is that all right? So if you're a young person and you're the son or a daughter of a member of one of these many, many yacht clubs, then you can learn how to sail or to ski or to kite in your own club. So the first thing is to be in your own club. Alexandria Yacht Club, for example, is a beautiful location on the Eastern Harbor in Alexandria. The Portside Yacht Club at the entrance of Portside, and you start there. Then, as you get better, you start having local championship, like the Suez Canal Area Championship. Then you have the Egyptian Championship, and then you go Arab Championship. So you go Arab Championship, you can go African Championship, and then you get more, and you go Mediterranean Championship. Then you compete against Italy, you compete against France, you compete against all these people. So this is Mediterranean Games. And the big thing is the World Championship, like anything, boxing or anything you like. So there's a World Championship, 10 of them with different kinds of boats for the world. And then what's the big prize?
The Olympics. Yes.
You see? So we had a young sailor, Ahmed Habash, excuse me if I say the name, but he deserves to be on named because he was on the last Olympics. And the last Olympics were in England, in the south of England, and he participated.
No.
So if you ask where are we, it's a very difficult question to ask. We are eager, we have got lots of young people, but don't forget that yachting and sailing and all these things have skill, physical fitness, knowledge of boats, knowledge of the sea, knowledge of the winds, and technology and tactics. So we are not against a boxer. If you're a good boxer, you're up to the top.
Yes.
You've got lots of hurdles to go by. So we are doing quite well. On Arab level, we're the top. On African level, we're the top. In Mediterranean, we rank between 2 and 3.
Yes.
Don't forget Italy, France, all these are really tough competitors. So I think apart from being very good at the sport, the thing is that you've got a whole generation who love the sea.
Yes.
And instead of going and sitting on the beach in let's say in Marsa Matruh, you can go sailing. Instead of going to the Red Sea and just diving, you can do kiting. Actually kiting, which is, you know, before you used to sit on a water ski, on a ski, and be pulled by a motorboat. Then, of course, people thought, well, why not have a kite? And the kite will pull this young man or woman. So kiting in the Red Sea, there are kiting clubs where people come from everywhere in the world. And even when we had a bit of problems in Egypt, they were still coming directly to the Red Sea. They're doing kiting because who can do kiting the whole year?
How high can someone kite? Some people are afraid of heights.
No, it's not that bad. No, it's not as bad as
It's
that.
like parasailing maybe, right?
Parasailing is very close to it. Kiting, The parasailing, you jump from something
Yes.
and then you sail along.
Yes.
Mostly it's done in the mountains or in the valleys.
Yes.
So you glide up like this. We don't have it very much here in Egypt because we don't have the mountains. In Switzerland,
to
of
God.
course. Yeah. But we've got something better. We've got the sea, we've got the wind. So the kite.
But doctor, you've mentioned Dina first mentioned of the Egyptians
Yes.
In the water sports here in Egypt, and of course the Mediterranean
Yes.
level and the Olympics. And you've mentioned that one of our sailors or one of our rowers went to the Olympics last year.
A sailor.
A sailor.
Yes.
So how different is it to compete in the sea, maybe in Alexandria or Suez or Port Said, and competing in the Nile, a river? Is there a
Okay.
difference between them?
Look, there is a big difference.
Yes.
And if you want to be international, most international competitions are in the sea. So in the south of England, it was in the sea between England and France. So if you train our people, the people who sail in this club or the Mazhar club or whatever it is on the Nile or in the Suez Canal, need the experience of the sea, open
Yes.
sea. So when we do our training, we do to places like Safaga, where it's open sea, you're in the sea. That's the way to get, you must always see where is the next competition. Is it in Europe on a lake? Is it on the North Sea? Is it in the United States? And then you prepare your teams in order to have the same conditions. Of course, when we did things here, we had the advantage. We knew about Safaga, we knew the wind conditions, we had the meteorological information. But it's a good sport, and young people are very good at it. So there you are.
Tell me, Doctor, tell me, Mr. Mazhar, also there is how important would it be for siblings or for kids to be able to try the sports and be trained on it when they grow up? Is
Yes.
it expensive? I mean, what are the conditions for such
Okay.
sports?
Look, it's a very refined sport. So they've thought of everything, because yachting, you can start, a kid can start with 6 years old to go in a certain car.
Rowing, would
No,
it
that's
be tough
sailing
on
now. I'm
their
concentrating
shoulders?
on sailing now.
Okay.
So sailing, 6 years old, I mean a 6-year-old is a very young person. They are taken into boats, they're called an optimist class, and there are millions of boats called the optimists. They're very, very cheap. In this club, there are about 30 of them. In the federation, which is just on the other side of the Nile, there are 150 of these boats, and these are given to these kids without anything. I mean, if you're a club member, you take the boat out. So you start at 6, then you get good at it, it's a championship, you go to the next kind of boat, it can be a laser, something called a laser, and then you're between, let's say, 10 and 15, 10 and 18. After you finish that, you can take something which is 18 to the 30. Now the oldest sailor, an Olympic sailor, average for certain kind of boats, he can go up to 50 years old. The King of Norway, I mean, just to give an example,
Yes.
and also the King of Sweden, were sailing at 90 years old, competitively sailing.
Amazing.
Yes, sure. It's not so bad. I mean, don't worry about your 90. I have the problem of the 90. But there
Everybody has to worry.
yes, there are sailors in the world, and of course the kind of boat, you see. If it's a very small boat, you can only sail up to 30 to be competitive. And our competitor was in this bracket, you see. So we have them all. So actually, if you teach your kids how to sail, you can go a long way without even having a boat, owning a boat, because you'll get them in the clubs. And that's why a couple of years ago, the International Sailing Union, which is the biggest thing in the world, they stopped saying yachting. They started saying sailing. Because if you talk about yachting, you think maybe it's Onassis. Okay, this is not what
We
it
need a
is.
yacht, an expensive one,
Yes.
just to
Sure.
be
So
So
practicing
that's why
the sport.
everybody says, you're a yachtsman, what does it cost? No, we are sailors.
So how can you make it even more popular here in Egypt, sailing?
More popular, you see, you have no excuse really, because if
Because
you're
we have
in-
everything.
You've got everything.
Yes.
If you go to Ismailia, you've got the lakes. If you go to Suez, you can in Suez or in the Red Sea. If you go to Ras Sadr, you've got these surf boats, surfers. You know they go how fast? They go at 40 kilometers an hour. So this is the, you know, they make the adrenaline in young people flow.
Pumped, yes.
So you can go a long, long way without a lot of expenses. Now, of course, if you're top of a club, the people who represented this club, the Carrier Club where you're shooting now, and went to Safaga, they were paid by their club. Their club, like football.
But professionals.
Yes. They were paid, the hotels were paid, etc. The only difference between Olympics and non-Olympics, Olympics are not, they are amateurs, they're not professionals. So nobody gets any money. I mean, you don't get paid, but you get your hotel, you get your transportation, etc. So we don't have anybody who's got any advantage by his income or his father's income at all, at all. So it's a good sport.
Okay, the yacht club here, the history of that club goes back probably to many years before. But let me ask you a question. Egyptians here are oriented, or their culture works much more with the soccer, the football, and I mean sports like that. Did you try throughout those years, ever you started this club, to try to promote this kind of sports to all Egyptians, to the layman in the street?
Yes.
So that can people come and, you know, be able to flow into the club?
You're
and
right,
try
you're right. Of course, you see, unfortunately, football always the
Dominating.
dominating thing. And even the people in basketball, even the people in handball, they're complaining that the football or the soccer people are taking
In
everything.
any other sport, actually.
Yes, any other sport really, because football is very popular and you can, so people who are doing this kind of sport over the years, like the International Olympic Committee, they have done things like bring the sport closer to the people. So, for example, in Safaga or in any of the parts of the Red Sea, we now bring the races close to the shore. So the public can sit on the shore and can see. In England, the Olympic Committee said we don't want any boats to sail too far. So you can sit on the beach, on a hill, and you can watch. So this has increased the importance
had
of
made it more popular.
Yes,
but is it safe to have the boats close to the shore?
It is very safe because the big boats, of course, they don't come very close to the shore. But we've got now these surfers. You've seen these people who ride the waves. Now, when they started riding, of course, wave riding is also a sport. But we haven't mentioned it because it's just a sport. If you have a windsurfer, you have a sail on the wave surfer.
Yes.
But wave surfers, look at the films in Hawaii. Look at all these kids doing this and then standing up and
in the ocean.
In the
Not
ocean.
here, yes.
Yes. No, we've got waves here on the north coast. Let's say outside Alexandria, when it's Nawa, you know, which is a strong storm, where you get the same kinds of rollers. They are rollers. The Red Sea can get very nasty also. So.
So, Doctor, for you, you're the former president of the Cairo Yacht Club,
this yes.
and the current commodore of the club as well. So how important is it for you, the Nile, and being here on the Nile every day?
Yes. Look, the Nile is part of our life. I mean,
Yes.
every time we get a chance to move to Heliopolis, nobody goes. Because you can walk to this club, not
Yes.
only this club. We said there are 6 or 7 of them down there. Also, by the way, I'd like to say that the police have got a club. The army have got a wonderful club. The Cairo University has got a club. So to answer your question, going back a bit, if you have the Cairo University has a club and the Suez Canal University has a club, okay, so that's a natural channel where people go in and do their sports. It's very, very easy. Actually, you only have the will to give the time, and the kids love it. I saw, for example, in the Red Sea, they take their boards on top of the cars now. They take their surfers on top of the cars. And for kiting now in the Red Sea, a piece of sand with nothing there. Somebody builds about 5 or 6 huts and lets young people spend the evening there, and they're in. They're doing it. And the equipment is now cheaper. A kite is cheap. So there you are, you see, so nobody should say that they haven't got the chance. You just have to be eager and want. Of course, if the media show more yachting, and we're in the media now. They show more yachting. If you talk about more yachting on your program, like Nile Cruise, a wonderful program, but you can. There are people who went up with boats from here up to Aswan. People who have made the trip with a sailing boat up to Aswan. My own family every year used to take a yacht to Alexandria, a small one, something like this we have here, and take it from there. Go up the Nile to Alexandria, out into the sea, and go all the way to Cyprus. So there you are in the Mediterranean. You can go after Cyprus, you can go to Marsa Matruh. They now all go to Turkey. And you know there's a lot of things going between Turkey and Egypt now. There are yacht clubs in Turkey, yacht clubs on the Turkish coast. And let us say, because you asked a question also, I missed answering it. This club started in 1935. The Alexandria Yacht Club, originally, the one in Alexandria in the harbor, is called the Khedivial Yacht Club. So imagine, we're talking about Khedive Ismail.
From the Ottoman period.
Of the Ottoman period.
Yes.
So that signifies that it's very old. It goes
Yes,
back to
no,
ages
we
ago.
go back a lot. I mean, don't forget the Suez Canal was built during Khedive Ismail.
That's
Okay, and
true.
it started operating. And when they operated, when the Lesseps came and did the designs and the program, and then Eugenie of France came and opened, the whole world knew it was the Suez Canal. And the Suez Canal is very famous everywhere, and it's the best place. Our kids go to Port Said, they go to Suez, depending where the championships
Yeah,
are.
it's a very important sport and a very important habit to be actually developing.
Yes, I think
Dr.
so.
Yousef Mazhar, the photographer, the former director of the Cairo Yacht Club, and the current commodore of the club, thank you very much for being
Thank
with us
you.
today
Thanks for
on Nile
coming to
Cruise.
the club, and thanks for asking us about yachting and sailing and skiing and surfing.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
Next
much.
time we'll
Best of
push you
luck.
up on a surfer.
Inshallah.
Okay,
Hopefully.
thank you.
Now it's time to go out for a quick break and we'll be right back again with you on the program.